Hello, friends. So, your state is either in the process of becoming a cannabis state or already decided to allow cannabis in some form and decided, legislated which cannabinoids you can have, all or maybe only some, or maybe diminished cannabinoid percentages in limited particular ways you can ingest. Do you know what cannabis science is called? Cannabinoidology. But of course, no legislators have been through cannabis schools of science, or they would have tried to free the plant and stopped usurping medical authority where they have no knowledge. I'm for freeing the plant completely and letting science get on with what it does best, discover facts. And the fact is, not only do people like to get high, they like to feel good, no pain, and that's physically and emotionally. But historically speaking, this medicine has been hijacked from society at large in a couple of ways. It was hijacked by big corporate business in cahoots with politicians of the day about 80 years ago, and our country and many others were suddenly forbidden from using a plant that literally grows like a weed all over the world and has been used medicinally and recreationally since the beginning of time. Then it was sort of rediscovered by the hippies in the 60s for entertainment, and they tried to change the law. Soon after, boys from war were recovering from PTSD. Mothers found out their babies with terrible seizure disorders were healing with cannabis. Cancer and AIDS patients were finding relief, and spirits were lifted by all who used it. Now comes another big argument. Since some states have completely freed the plant with no restrictions, why bother with medical cannabis and the whole rigmarole and cost of registration when the plant is legal at every level for adult use? Why vote in a medical cannabis program when you can go to any convenience store or friend you trust and buy it? That's what I'm talking about today, right after the intro. Welcome to Season 5 of the Cannabivarum podcast, the Cannabis Truth podcast. I speak the language of cannabis freely and uncensored while educating my audience on safe use of this live plant therapy. You should know what's in your cannabis, what's good, and what's not. It does not come with an FDA stamp of approval yet. Using cannabis mindfully as medication is a different concept than Western healthcare philosophy, specifically of the past 100 years. There's a lot to learn and reconsider. The information you'll find here comes straight from scientists and clinicians doing the work and reporting their findings in real time through various live online outlets. The scientific truth of cannabis is finally getting out and is wide open for all to see at the respected medical sites like PubMed.gov and JAMA, the Journal of American Medical Association. And I'm right there in the thick of it with all those titans of medicine as a fly on the wall, because I'm not a doctor, nor did I go to med school, but I did take dozens of private cannabis courses and still engage in continuing education offered by cannabis expert scientists over the past few years, and slowly began to see and understand the bigger picture. Now I talk to people all day long about cannabis and hopefully inspire them to research the facts as we know them today. Cannabis is an amazing alternative in health remedies. It can reportedly alleviate typical disease problems and troubling side effects, even those caused by synthetic prescriptions. This is Honey Smith Walls, a 21st century cannabis shaman, not a doctor, not a scientist, raised by nuns and wolves in the verdant cattle pastures of the Oklahoma oil fields. I'm here to amplify the truth of this great big story of cannabis in historical, political, scientific, and even spiritual terms, so you can make educated decisions about the medicine you choose to ingest. Y'all may have heard the commercial I made about this subject, listing about a dozen reasons why a medicinal program is so important. It's not just letting corporate with a big C take over. It's fundamentally about protecting patients from bad ideas and keeping cannabis from becoming a Frankenplant with its real capabilities limited by legislators who just don't realize how their dictates harm people when they don't understand the medicine they're trying to legislate. I moved up here to Michigan and became a farm girl recently. I had to get my whole cannabis life all reorganized because I'm in a different state with different laws than what my former state of Florida had. That meant getting involved in the Michigan medical cannabis program. And so I've gone through the process, which wasn't a big deal. It didn't cost nearly as much as Florida did to get into the medical program. But let me give you a bunch of reasons why obtaining a medical card in your state is more beneficial than just going it alone in a recreational-only way. There can be significant price differences between medical cannabis and recreational cannabis, with cost savings and tax exemptions for patients. Medicinal typically allows more potency than recreational for severe illnesses and disease that require higher doses, which are much more costly. You'll have access to consistently high-quality cannabis with a third-party lab test, the certificate of analysis that provides the product that proves that the product is safe to consume. Every medical dispensary must prove that their cannabis has been tested for molds and mildews and heavy metals, and those are just a few of the natural causes of contaminated cannabis. There's also pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, and more that are chemicals toxic to humans and animals. And yes, animals need cannabis too. As this wild, wild west of cannabis begins to organize across the United States and around the world, we will see all kinds of iterations, but you absolutely must check for that third-party lab test to prove the medicine you're about to ingest is safe for consumption. You know, you get all your meds at a drugstore, all your prescription meds at a drugstore, not at the grocery store, not at the Five and Dime, because you know that drugstores have very stringent rules about the safety of those meds so that they don't kill the patients. That's why we're careful about where we're going to buy our cannabis. Now, as of January 2024, New York State allows insurance for some of the costs associated with medical cannabis. Pennsylvania patients receive $50 a month in benefits to ease the burden of cost. So what I'm telling you is that insurance is coming. Legally, you'll have enhanced protection with a card. Like, workplaces vary in their attitudes right now still about cannabis. You know, there's still stigma around cannabis medication. But a lot of companies have stopped testing applicants for cannabis or other drug use. As well, there could be a problem if cannabis is discovered while you're stopped during a transportation, during transport in your car, if you don't have a medical card. Now, the card won't keep you out of trouble if you caused a serious accident, but it will give you legal recourse if it's found in your car and, a policeman has a hissy fit. There are often higher possession limits with a card. For instance, if you have a seizure condition that requires larger amounts of medicine to control it, then your card will provide the extension of those limits. And recreational possession limits are generally smaller.
Friends, I'm just stunned to realize how difficult it is to find trustworthy, high-quality CBD products that are full spectrum and whole plant, with all the natural compounds extracted from the plant for you to consume, as nature provided. They don't carry it in the shops where I go to find my cannabis products. They push their own isolate brands, and that's just not good enough for me. It doesn't have all the compounds. I've heard a lot of complaints about how to find consistent over-the-counter CBD products, and I have a solution. I became an affiliate partner with Healer Hemp Products. Dr. Dustin Sulak, a doctor of osteopath, who created this line, is truly one of the great leaders in cannabis therapy, giving his patients relief from their issues for many years with his Healer CBD products that can be shipped to all 50 states. I use his acidic version of cannabidiol, or CBDA. It has everything plus a lot more of the compound, which Dr. Sulak and other leaders in this industry have found to be more potent, thereby using less, which ends up making a big difference to your wallet, but it also adds many benefits to your body. Start lifting your quality of life with Healer CBD products today, and check out that sweet discount just waiting for you in the link below.
So we're back talking about medical logic in cannabis and the reasons why you should care about having a cannabis medical card and be in a medical program, as opposed to just, buying your cannabis from a street dealer or any store that hasn't bothered to third-party lab test their products. So you'll have continuing healthcare monitoring by medical professionals already in the cannabis industry who understand not only your particular condition or disease and the medications you're already on for them. They understand cannabinoidology and the effects of the plant on your body and any contraindications with other medicines that you may be taking. There is a contraindication with patients who use a prescriptive medication called warfarin. Now, I'm going to let you and your doctors discuss that, because I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist, but I hang out with them, and I've learned a lot, and that's why I'm passing it on to you. Your doctors will be able to tell you what those contraindications are, and it's not only warfarin. Cannabis has some pretty amazing abilities. You don't want to be putting one on top of another prescriptive medication that does the same thing, or you might increase the value of that medication, those medications, and that might not be exactly what the doctor wants for you and your body. So, please discuss contraindications of any prescription medicines that you may be on before you start using cannabis. That's simple. There are lower age limits with a card because kids have disease and chronic health issues too, especially in America where our diets are so rich in sugar. It was the great medical marijuana mothers' migration to Colorado that jump-started a huge movement in cannabis when mothers found out 6 farm brothers up there had discovered a particular type of cannabis that could save their babies from having hundreds of life-threatening seizures every day. Charlotte Figge was the poster child for the medicine those brothers created, and now Charlotte's Web CBD can be found easily all over the world. Thank you. Thank you for that. Some states have medical cannabis reciprocation. That means your medical card in Florida will work in Michigan. Currently, there are 16 states that have reciprocity for medical cannabis. See, because unless I can drive there in one day and take my own meds, I won't travel. I can't be without my meds. And some states still don't allow it in the strength I need. Imagine that being the case with your blood pressure meds or your heart meds. Utterly ridiculous to hamstring cannabis patients like this. Remember that Great Mother's medical marijuana movement to Colorado? Well, it happened because their original states would not allow the cannabis medicine over the border, not even to save the babies. And that medicine had hardly any THC in it, hardly any, just microscopic amounts. That's what happens when fearful legislators block movement in the cannabis industry. So, through the alchemy of safe plant therapy with lots of continuing education and counsel, you'll learn how to take care of yourself. Oh, one very important thing for you to remember about safety, besides making sure that what you're about to use has been third-party lab tested for contamination, this kind of falls into sacred territory. Now, just because your trusted friend gave you some cannabis, that doesn't mean it's safe cannabis for you. If you don't know what's in it, you don't know how much THC is in it, you don't know if it's contaminated, if you have chronic disease issues, contamination is a slow killer to someone with a weakened immune system from diseases like arthritis, IBS, Parkinson's, or worse, cancer. Safe cannabis is as important as safe Tylenol. Remember that scare in the 80s that created tamper-proof bottles? Be warned and be diligent in your quest for clean medicine. Don't be embarrassed to ask for proof of third-party testing. This is no joke, and you're using cannabis as medicine to make you feel better. You don't want a secondary health issue popping up like like what happens with synthetic medications all the time. Anybody else get a cough or aching shoulder from taking blood pressure pills? Happens all the time. Doctors found out their cancer patients using street weed died from aspergillus mold in their lungs, not from the cannabis or from the cancer. The mold got them. So even if your very best friend offered you some cannabis in any form, your first question should be, has it been tested for contamination? And if not, a real friend will understand if you pass or go get the good stuff from a discerning place. Now, all you have to do is Google medical cannabis program in my state, or even pot doctor near me, to find out what your options are. And if your state has not caught up to the current cannabinoid science and you're still waiting for your legislators to take their hands out of your doctor's little black bag, there are hemp options available which are legal in all 50 states. You'll be amazed to find out what various compounds in that plant can actually do for your particular aches and pains. Good luck, my friends. See you next week.
You've been listening to another Cannabivarum podcast, the Cannabis Truth Podcast, with 21st century cannabis shaman Honey Smith Walls. That's me. About the importance of using verifiably safe products, the process of getting a diagnosis from your family doctor and taking your records to a cannabis specialist can lead you to the correct cannabinoid therapy for those issues. Otherwise, you're just your own guinea pig, looking for answers without any foundational knowledge or ability to determine the best choices or strategies. To find a qualified cannabis expert in your area, visit cannabisclinicians.org. It is a national society of cannabis experts, and you'll see that link down in my show notes. Unless otherwise proven by a reputable third-party lab test, please be advised that all street weed is contaminated. It may do grave harm to a patient with a delicate immune system who already has inflammatory issues like arthritis or IBS, fibromyalgia, or worse. Subscribe to the Cannabivarum podcast so you get automatically updated episodes, and tell your friends and family to tune in for current cannabis information. Thank you so much for joining this worldwide conversation about the real value of cannabis. We'll see you next week. For now, I'm pretty sure the cows are calling.
Yeah.